So I'm volunteering at this place where I serve food, and I'm taking this woman's order, and she's trying to tell me something about what's on the menu, and I'm just not quite getting what she's wanting to say. And so she starts to get frustrated. And so trying to understand, and she gets more frustrated because I'm not getting her. And then she gets angry and she starts being really rude and has this just very aggressive tone of voice. And I could feel myself start to tremble inside and sort of go into a freeze mode. But instead of saying something, I just kind of pushed it down. I took her order and I went to get the food. And then a second later, I hear this commotion over at the table. And I was like, oh no. So I'm going to continue this story. But before, I just want to speak to why I didn't say anything in the moment. So, this is something that for me was very conditioned, that I stuffed my feelings from being very young. My mom always tells stories of, she could tell that I was really upset about something. But when she'd ask me how I am, I would just say, fine, I'm fine. And that is a pattern that carried over into almost all of my relationships for most of my life. I instead of acknowledging what I really felt, most of the time, actually, I didn't even know what I was feeling, much less able to articulate it to someone else. So it just became very much a part of my pattern to stuff my feelings down. And if you're in a woman, really, or Generation X in particular, it seems like we really learned how to put down our feelings in order to take care of everyone else, to people please or to overfunction. And so it was almost like everyone else's needs got put before our own to such an extent that often our own feelings got lost in the mix. And so for me, over the last decade or so, it's really been a huge priority for me to do what I can to reverse this pattern. So a lot of that has been about really just tuning into my feelings and trying to in real time know what it is I'm feeling and where I'm feeling it in my body. And then to be able to express it to whoever it's with, most usually with my romantic partner. And so so I've actually gotten a lot better about this, about noticing what I'm feeling and expressing it in real time. But as soon as, so back to the story. So as I was sharing, she got angry because I wasn't understanding her. And instead of saying something, I went to get her food. And it was then that I realized, like, ugh, I should have said something to her. I shouldn't have just taken that. And I, could feel myself really activated. And what I wish I would have said was just, didn't have to be confrontational, but just in a very calm, kind, but clear way, just said, Judy, I'm not going to serve you food if you talk to me like that. And I didn't. But what did happen is that as soon as I left, another guy who's lovely at the table said, Judy, you need to be more respectful. And she lost it. She started screaming at him and she started hurling racial slurs and she was just cruel. And to the point that someone had to come over and intervene. Well, it turns out the guy who was defending me left the place in tears. And so I was left really carrying these two things, like one on my own, like kind of mad at myself, like, why didn't I speak up for myself when I had the chance, especially after all this work I've done? And then, of course, feeling guilty and really bad about what, here he stepped up for me and he stood up for me and here he got lashed out and I mean left in tears, this sweet man. And so I could just sort of dwell on this, and this is what I would have done in the past, feeling over responsible for him and mad at myself. But I came home and I I felt it. I mean, I still felt it in my system for the rest of the time that I was there. But instead of beating myself up, I just, I'm really viewing it as like actually a celebration on the personal front. Like I still feel terrible about him. But on that front, I realized like it's not my fault. Like he was a good person and he stood up for me. And I just honor him for that. And I told him so. Um, and also in terms of my not saying anything, I think, I can't, and anyone else who's working at this, to be able to express what you're feeling and work with boundaries in the moment. Like it's a muscle. The opposite of stuffing is something that, most of us have done for so long. And so to undo it, to reverse the pattern is just something that takes time. And so we can celebrate that instead of it taking 2 weeks to share our truth, maybe it took 2 days. And then maybe the time gets a little shorter. Instead of 2 days, it takes 2 hours. And then maybe over time, it takes 2 minutes. And so even though my overall trajectory is really good, I'm getting much better about saying things in the moment. There's still times like the other day when there's there's backtrack, and still that I got it within 2 minutes, and recognized that I wish I would have done things differently was pretty good. So I'm just gonna just gonna celebrate myself instead of beating myself up, and look forward to being able to actually next time do it in the moment. So that is my story, and I am really curious about you. How, if it has this pattern shown up for you? Are you able to speak your truth in the moment? What keeps you from doing it? And what has your journey around this been? Please share in the comments, and go ahead and like and subscribe to this video. I haven't said that yet, but I know that's the thing you're supposed to say. I would love to grow this channel and continue sharing, and hopefully sharing content that can be useful. All right. Have a great day.